All right. So, again, welcome all. Thank you for being our seed grant winners in this current school year. These are the final presentations. A quick overview. We're going to introduce the HATS, what HATS is, talk a little bit about the STEDTRAIN committee. We have some of the committee members online. Thank our donors. We're going to then have Robert Doherty, I know him as Bob, President and CEO of Carbon Conversion Group, give us a very interesting talk on kind of how he got to where he is in the science world and how he is applying his chemistry background in a really interesting endeavor. The teachers will then give their presentations and summaries of their projects. We're going to have a best presentation vote at the end, and those presentations will be broken up into, I believe, elementary, middle school, and high school. So as we listen to the conversations today, you all were sent a vote that you can, a ballot as it were, and you can send that in with your vote for each of the three categories of speakers. We'll have a final remarks and we'll dismiss. Again, the timing is flexible based on, we'll do what we have to do. We may end early, it may be late, we don't know. So with that, I'm going to jump in and talk about HATS. Again, Allison Wren is the president of the Huntsville Association of Technical Societies. She is unable to make it today, so I will give her a quick presentation. And if I can, come on, Paul. Tell you what, we'll do it this way. All right. Is everyone seeing the STEDTRAIN welcome 27 April screen? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, thank you. HATS. HATS is of course, the Huntsville Association of Technical Societies. It is a nonprofit organization. It is the umbrella organization for STEDTRAIN, and it is through HATS is how we qualify as a 501(c) organization. It was established back in 1969, and we are celebrating our 55th year of service to the larger Huntsville metro area this year. And if you ever need to reach out to us, board@hats.org is a good way to reach us. What is our mission? To coordinate the professional, educational, and civic activities of its member organizations and to promote common goals. And its objective is to support the Huntsville area technical and professional societies dedicated to the advancement of science and engineering. What are those members? We have grown from 6 back in the early days to 28 technical societies, representing a number of professionals in our larger community. And who are we? Technical professionals, area businesses, government agencies, educational institutions, nonprofits. And here are some of the names. The charter members were the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics local chapters, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, North Alabama section, Alabama Society of Professional Engineers, the IEEE Huntsville section, the International Society of Automation, and the Von Braun Astronomical Society, which, as we know from its namesake, was strongly encouraged and supported back in the day with Dr. Von Braun. Our board members are Allison as president, Mr. Goins as vice president, treasurer is Ms. Cash. We're looking for a secretary, so if anyone wants to help us there, let us know. And we have a number of other important roles, but I want to make sure we give a strong shout out to Ron Hackett, who is the IT webmaster, not only for HATS, but also for STEDTRAIN, and he's an integral part of everything we do here at STEDTRAIN, so thank you. Marketing, Catherine, we're looking for someone to help us with the Person of the Year award, so let us know. Social programs is a Mr. Greg Duke. I am the the vice chair of the STEDTRAIN organization and serve on the board of HATS as a result of that. And we have Lorraine as a member at large, and the same thing with Mary, member at large. So that's the quick overview of HATS. Any questions on HATS before we move into the STEDTRAIN program for today? Hearing none, we're going to jump back in and go to, whoops, wrong one. We'll go back to the committee. And so here are some pretty pictures of people involved. And there's Mr. Ron, who, I'm sorry, Ron, in your current lighting, you're a little bit washed out. You look better in your photo. But some very great community support, all volunteers helping us out. Laura is a research scientist at Georgia Institute of Georgia Tech Research Institute, and they are sponsoring our meeting today. So a big shout out to her, and thanks to GTRI. Minnie is on board. She is president of the DMS Technology. Consider them for your good high-tech work in the Huntsville area. Robin is a former educator, retired from the Madison City Schools, and is now as the recruitment specialist. And if I'm not mistaken, Robin, you are kind of filling in right now for the K-Tech program and the larger efforts. You have anything to say on that?
Just that if you have any students who might be interested in kind of a non-traditional route to job certification in a technical area, give me a call. Yeah, Dorothy Havens, our longtime director, just retired. So I'm not attempting to fill her shoes, but I am taking on some responsibilities to help with administration as well as recruitment right now. So if you have any, those of you who are high school teachers, especially, if you have any students, get a hold of me. And we also have a summer camp for rising 9th through 12th graders. So if you have any 8th graders who are interested in robotics, VR technology, let me know and I'll hook you up. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robin. And then Lori Nelson, retired Huntsville school teachers, and a winner of many STEDTRAIN awards. Once we heard that she was retiring and was no longer going to be an active teacher, we said we would love to have you on the board, and she has been helping us and very much appreciated. And then I work with Mr. Terry Brooks, and he is a government civilian with the U.S. Army Materiel Command in the Huntsville area. And he has been joining the committee. And again, all volunteers giving of their time to help support STEDTRAIN. And then some mentions for people who have been an important part of our program in the past. Philomena, Dr. Gradska is no longer able to attend our functions, but she was a founding member of the STEDTRAIN organization. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Andy and Woody in the last few years. Again, both of them very important parts of our larger STEDTRAIN effort and program, and years of dedicated service to the larger STEDTRAIN organization and hats. All right, and then we're going to talk briefly about some of our donors. We are fortunate to have funding from the Space and Missile Defense Working Group. They're part of the National Defense Industrial Association Tennessee Valley chapter. We thank them for their very impressive support of hats and STEDTRAIN. The IEEE Huntsville section, a long-term supporter of STEM opportunities in the Huntsville area. And then Redstone Federal Credit Union, again, kudos to them and their support. They are very big supporters in the community. As some of you know, that they support some of your programs directly. So again, they support us, and all of these great organizations have been very helpful in the larger community. And with that, we'd like to talk about our in-kind donors. And of course, you've seen Ron and all the great work he has done. And again, kudos, Ron. Anything you'd like to talk about in terms of the Hackett Information Systems engineering world?
No, I don't have anything specific to say about the organization. Pretty much, I'm retired. That's just a kind of a virtual logo or a virtual business. I don't have any clients anymore, but I would like to thank the teachers for their support of STEM and for going over and above for their students. Not everybody will do that, and I know this group of teachers who apply for STEDTRAIN grants. You're the kind of people that really put in the overtime, so it's very much appreciated. I know your students appreciate it, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you. As I mentioned before, Laura is our liaison to the Georgia Tech Research Institute. They are supporters of STEDTRAIN in kind. Laura, anything you would like to shout out on GTRI?
Nope, just glad to be a part of this. I know GTRI really likes to make sure we're involved in the community, and I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to be that person for you guys.
Well, again, thank you very much. And without that, I'm going to now try to introduce the wonderful activities of our guest speaker, Mr. Robert Doherty. A little background. I ran into Robert and his wife as they were sitting next to me at breakfast one day, I believe it was last fall. And I happened to overhear the conversation that they were about to head over to some place called the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. And Bob, I hope you don't mind the fact that I kind of intruded on the conversation, but I was like, I got to talk to them because I volunteer at the Space and Rocket Center, and I wanted to make sure that they made sure that to visit all the spots that I thought were particularly cool. So Bob comes to us from a background in the world of chemistry. He is, I would say, a serial entrepreneur. He has an amazing educational pedigree, but I will say the few minutes that we spoke at that restaurant last fall in Huntsville, I was saying, all I could think is I have to know more about this guy and what he is doing because dang, it is interesting. So Bob, I'm going to put your slides up and let you take it from there. All right.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, but it was my pleasure talking to you, and everything you said. My wife laughs at me because when we went to the Smithsonian in Washington, I could spend all day just staring at all the different projects and different airplanes, and I'm just a huge fan of science. If you can go to the next slide, Paul.
Yep, I'm working. There you go.
Okay. If you go to the next one after that.
Yep. Oh, not what in science?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're not on it. Well, you're on the very first one.
Oh, and you want the second one?
Yeah, second one, please.
Okay, gotcha. Are you seeing it?
No, it's still on the first one.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Hang on a second. Let me share this. I was afraid. So are you seeing it now?
No.
Okay, give me a moment. Technical difficulties. How's that?
Oh, you're on the third one.
And
There it is.
now you should be on 2. Yep.
You know, my wife and I have 7 children, and over the years, my youngest is 21 and my oldest is 37. And over the years, I've always given a high school presentation, and I've always gone in and everything from earth science to chemistry to physics. My background is I have a BS in chemistry, BS in chemical engineering, and I have my master's in finance. And the one key thing that I found by talking to a lot of students are that it's not like they don't like math or science. They're afraid of it. They don't understand it. So one of the things I try to explain to the students is that really what a science and math background gives you is an analytical problem solving technique. It gives you a logical approach. And unfortunately, we all know that teenagers are not very logical, but it gives them a very good logical approach to it. And then I made a comment to them. I said, what about if we look at science in a totally different way? And I have this one mantra that I always, one company I ran, I had 27 engineers and 14 PhD chemists. And the chemists and engineers used to get really upset when they would do an experiment and it wouldn't work. It would fail. And I said, an experiment never fails. You just don't achieve your desired objective. And I'll give you a good example of that. We were building body armor for the military. And the one gentleman that designed an arm, it only, instead of defeating the round going through it, it only turned it at an angle. And what I would make all the engineers and science people do is we would have a weekly meeting where we would talk about their experiments. And one person's failure was another person's gem, because his failure in body armor turned into be the body armor, turned into be the vehicle armor for the MRAP vehicle. So when you look at one, experiments don't fail. You always learn something from an experiment, but you might not achieve what you want to, but you don't fail. And you look at it, and I'll give you a good example. We nicknamed them the Edisonian engineers. Thomas Edison wasn't a trained engineer. And the way Thomas Edison created the light bulbs, he did, I don't know, thousands of experiments about how much energy, what kind of filament. And eventually he found out the way, but his experiments never failed. He always learned what to do with the next step. Paul, if you can go to the next slide. One of the things I tried to do is I try to excite kids about science and engineering. Now, it was the funniest presentation. My son was in ninth grade and he was taking earth science. So he asked me to come in and give a talk. So I went in there, and the first thing I asked all the students was, how many of you have cell phones? They all raised their hand. I said, how many of you think earth science is totally worthless? And they all laughed. And the teacher looked at me like I was out of my mind. What are you doing? So I held the bag of sand up. I said, here's a bag of sand. I took sand and I showed a glass fiber. And then I saw the fiber woven into a mat, into a fabric. Then I held the bag of copper pennies up. And I took the copper pennies and I put a copper foil up. Then I showed them how the copper foil can be adhered to the glass fiber. Then I showed them a circuit board that you can take the copper fiber and glass. Then I put the circuit board assembled, and I said, if it wasn't for earth science, you wouldn't have cell phones. And they all looked at me like I was up. It was funny. They looked at me like I was crazy, and the teacher started laughing. She says, I didn't know where you were going with that, but I really appreciate your ending because your start was really bad. But it's the same thing with algebra. Everybody says algebra is worthless. Well, go to it. If you tell the children that algebra is a methodology, where if you go to a store and something's $100 and it's 20% off, how do you figure it out? You use algebra to figure it out. It's the same thing with geometry. Mea culpa. When I was in high school, I thought geometry was totally worthless. So I would ask the students in geometry. I said, how do you go from your house to your friend's house? What's the shortest distance? I said, that's geometry. And you look at the whole thing about GPS systems, it's all geometry. And then one of the things I try to emphasize is engage in, there's a design application versus a product attribute. And I'll give you two great examples. 3M Post-it. 3M Post-it was a tremendous engineering error. It was a chemist error. The chemist at 3M was trying to develop an adhesive that cured, and it never cured. So he was sitting at a conference room one time, and a marketing gentleman came in and he said, what, have you developed a product you were supposed to? He said, no, it's not curing. So the marketing man pasted it on the back of a piece of paper, and that was the creation of the Post-it. So there was an experiment that failed because you didn't achieve your desired objective, but the bottom line is you created a massive program called the Post-it program. And another good example of that is Kevlar. DuPont created Kevlar fabric or fiber as a fishing line replacement for Stren fishing line. The problem was Kevlar was hydroscopic. It absorbed too much moisture. So then a marketing person took over and said, it's got great tensile strength on it. What about if we made body armor out of it? So the whole thing about Kevlar was an engineering error because he didn't get what he wanted to, but look at the product he created. So you try to emphasize, look at what the product attributes are. I'll give you another funny example, and it comes personally. I created a foam that goes in the ocean and absorbs oil, but doesn't absorb moisture. And, so I figured, okay, great, we can clean up the environment. The problem is environmentalists, they love the product, but they don't want to pay for it. So I came home one day and my wife was taking the foam and she was absorbing the baking grease out of a baking pan. And I said, what do you do? She goes, well, you said it absorbs oil and baking grease is oil. So from a foam I developed for the ocean, I created a product that's a kitchen sponge product called the Grease Beast. And unfortunately, you can't buy it anymore because the company was sold and somebody bought it out. They basically bought the technology and sold and just shut it down. But you look at it and you try to teach people to look at the attributes on it, not look at what the product was designed for, but what the product does. And then the creative thinking. My current company now, what I do is that the plastic material. Everybody loves plastic. You use it. You can't get rid of plastic, but yet the environmentalists don't want plastic. Well, what is plastic? Plastic is a hydrogen and carbon atom put together. It's a hydrocarbon atom. So I figured out a way to take the hydrocarbon atom, go through a microwave reactor, and I'll talk more about that later, and break it down to its elemental form. So you've got to think about when you start teaching science, you think about what the elements are that come together to form a product, but what are the product attributes and what can you use those products for? And then a good simple example is like non-Newtonian and Newtonian fluids, right? So you take cornstarch and water and you create what is called a non-Newtonian fluid. And what is that? So who cares about non-Newtonian fluids? Well, I'm sure everywhere from kindergarten all the way up, they either play sports. And if you put shin pads on, that padding inside of it, those foam padding, a lot of that is a non-Newtonian fluid type material where it's soft to the touch, but when you impact it, it stops it. We use a lot of non-Newtonian fluids for composite body armor to seal the front of a ceramic plate because the war fighters would take their vests off and drop them on the ground and the ceramics would crack. So you put a fluid in front of it, so when they drop it, it protects the ceramic. So you start looking at applications of science and the practicality of science. I think that, and excuse everybody, I'm sorry, but my presentation is really more geared towards a lot about chemistry and a little bit about math. Well, you can go to the last slide. I'll give you a funny example about how science can solve an everyday problem. You know, everybody has a microwave oven and you're told don't put metal in a microwave. And the reason is, why don't you put metal in a microwave? Well, it deflects the electromagnetic energy. But if you go into science and you break those down to fine particles, instead of deflecting it, it will absorb electromagnetic energy. So I take plastic, I shred the plastic, I add a catalyst we developed to it. I run it through a microwave reactor at about 2000 degrees Celsius, and I convert that to a hydrogen gas, and I convert it to a carbon black material, which is graphite and graphene. So counterintuitive. Number one, it's plastic. What are you making graphite out of plastic for? This graphite is only a carbon and plastic's a carbon. And the second thing is that the microwave oven, you can put metal inside of a microwave. If you break it down fine particles, they will actually absorb the energy instead of deflecting the energy. So one of the things I wanted to do, and why I wanted to talk to Paul about this, is my goal. When I was out in California, my company supported a lot of science initiatives. And what I think is happening is that we need to get, and I'm willing to work with Paul and with you, your society on this. I think you need to get more businesses involved in the science and the applications for younger children. Because the more people we do that, the more donations we can do. You know, in my company, Carbon Conversion Group, we're setting up a foundation. It's going to be a 501 not-for-profit organization. And what I want to do is I want to use that organization to donate. A lot of companies donate to universities, but I believe if we donate at a younger age and we teach the applications and you teach the practicality of science, all we can do is advance us. And when I said at the very beginning, when I joined, that my biggest fear is that if companies don't support education, the problem is we're going to lose our standing as the number one technical country in the world. Because I really think the U.S. is the number one technical country in the world. And my goal will be to work with STEDTRAIN, and try to see how I can get other corporates involved in it. The gentleman I was talking to Paul about before is a company called New Age Energy. And what he does is, everybody knows what coal is. Well, what's coal used for? It's used to light a furnace. Well, not really. You break down coal and go back to its elemental form, and coal has a tremendous amount of hydrogen inside of it. So this gentleman named Mike Wilson actually has a company that's selling about almost $2 billion a year, taking coal products, running it through a very, very high-tech process, creating hydrogen gas from it. So, you know, you look at a good example is, everybody thinks coal is just a fire or a furnace, but it's really not. You can use that if you break it down to its elemental form. You can use that to create different products. So I know I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, but I really truly believe that one of the things we lack in society is corporate support at the high school and below levels. Corporate support is great at college level. They look at it as that what we're doing is we're actually doing research to better the companies. I think companies need to do funding and do support just to better our whole educational system, and not just personal. But my belief, that's coming from somebody with 7 children and 3 grandchildren. So
Kudos, Bob. I think you're spot on, and I have seen the educators, and a lot of them I'm sure will vouch for me here, if we can interest and impact these students early on, say middle school or even before, then they know they'll have an opportunity to take the right prerequisite uh, classes in high school that will then prepare them to be the better STEM oriented students in college. So right, you need to interest them early, and so they are thinking about what sorts of things they need to check mark as they progress through their school, and to better prepare them to be the scientists, engineers, and business leaders of the future.
Well, the interesting thing about the last presentation, when the teacher was talking about the VR and talking about computers, in my mind, that's a CAD CAM operator. And it's amazing, like all the equipment in my company is everything is CNC controlled, it's all programming. So we need computer programmers to come in. The machine operators will push buttons to start the machine, but everything needs to be programmed. So when you look at, taking a simple thing like she's teaching about computers, two of my sons took CAD CAM in high school in California. So and you could actually graduate high school with a CAD certificate as a programmer. So you look at the practicality of science and you look at the business applications of it. And I think if we go in and we teach the young people that chemistry isn't being locked up in a laboratory with a white coat. Chemistry is business related. And it's really funny, but I was just talking to an investment advisor and he was telling me that there's out of CEOs in the company, about 25,000 of CEOs and companies in the United States are engineering background or a science background, and they have a business background. And the toughest thing to go to is from a technical professional to a business manager, because what you end up happening is science and math is white and black. It's right or wrong. When you go into business, everything's gray. It's just sorry about the dog. Sorry, we have 3 dogs in the background. I apologize. I was going to go to my office today, but I figured I'd stay here. But the key thing is to get children excited that science is not just being locked in a lab. Math is not just something you learn and forget. It's a lifetime skill. So
Kudos, definitely. Um, Thank you very much for enlightening us and giving us a peek of the neat work that your company will be working on. We look forward to updates.
Well, if you don't mind, you can share my contact information with other teachers. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, I quite often don't answer my cell phone because I get too many spam calls, but I do answer my email address. So if you
Fantastic.
please pass that on. And I apologize that I have to leave. I have 3 grandchildren. I promised to take someplace today, so
Very
I have to
good.
take off.
Very
But
good.
it was my pleasure meeting all of you. And Paula, I'd like to talk to you future because I know Mike wasn't in New Age. When I spoke to him about this program, he was very interested. So what I would like to work with STEDTRAIN on is kind of be your corporate fundraiser and see if I can band a bunch of companies together and do donations and either via equipment or via technology or via the funds. So funds are easy to do. That's just money. But I'm sorry.
Teachers, what do you think? Should we listen to him?
So
Yes. Bob, thank you. We look forward to a continued conversation. And
thank you all. Have a great day. And thank you for letting me talk.
all right. Take care.
All right. Bye now.
Wow. That is great. I'm loving the sound of that. So, just to make sure, am I now showing kindergarten through 3rd grade slide, and are you seeing it? Okay, we're going to jump now into the presentations, and leading us off is one that I'm going to be giving on behalf of Kathy Frizzelle in Bridgeport Elementary. She is unfortunately very under the weather. She had to email me what she could, and she is quite sick. And so I created the slide. And so I'm going to kind of very quickly cover some of the work that she's been on. The intent of her project was to equip and create a student news crew to report on school activities. The intent here is to develop writing skills, technical skills, and as well as developing soft skills like interviewing and working with the content. The students are reporting and creating news content, and yes, the news crew is a go. They reported some issues. The supplies were ordered later than they would have liked, so the students have had less time to work with the equipment once it has arrived. And they've struggled a little bit with editing video. The tool that they had is somewhat complex, and so they're reporting some difficulties in that regard. And then and then in this particular case, Kathy was expecting in her project when she proposed it to be a full-time assigned to help not only develop but to deploy this project with the students. But then she was assigned to a much less, I mean, incredibly cut her hours back for that program. So it's really put difficulty and less time, student interaction time on that regard. So what has she learned from that process? Well, she's going to try to kind of kickstart next school year in that the rising fourth graders who will be participating next school year, they will already be working with the equipment and working on the project at the final month or two of this current school year. That will help them kind of get a better start for next fall. And Kathy reports that she requested and has been assigned much more time for this effort next school year. And so she's hoping that she'll have a much better ability to kind of shepherd these students through the process and get some good results. So that's the quick word from Bridgeport Elementary School. With that, I'm going to now move to Diane. And Diane, tell me when you're ready for the next slide.
Good morning. This is Diane Trout. I'm from Julian Elementary in Athens, Alabama. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
I am a STEM lab teacher. I teach pre-K through third grade, and we have about 386 students that come to the STEM lab every week that I get to teach. They're so much fun. So we got 2 hydroponics towers, and our students learn the importance of water conservation in the hydroponics tower versus traditional gardening. We actually moved, when I wrote this grant, I did not know that we were going to be moving buildings because we are getting a brand new school. So at the end of the school year last year, they demolished our building and we had a beautiful outside garden. So one of the things I really wanted to do was compare how much water was being used in our tower, in our hydroponics tower gardens versus our traditional garden. That didn't happen too well this year because I had to write a grant for some temporary gardens that we have just started using since spring break at our new location, our new temporary location. So we have been measuring what we have been putting in our new tower gardens. I'm pointing to them because I'm at school right now. But we measured how many times they were refilled, and I'll get to that in the new slide. But students really enjoyed seeing how many times we refilled them, and we charted that. Our problem, like I said, was we didn't have our outside garden to compare. So we didn't get our outside garden going until March of this year. So we didn't have those comparisons to see. But one of the other things that I didn't put in our slide that we had happen is when we had that ice storm this year and we lost power at school, everything in our garden died.
Oh.
Yeah, in our tower garden died, and our hydroponics tower garden died because we lost power and the plants didn't get to grow. So when we came back to school, everything died. So that was one of the problems, but I'll tell you a solution to that problem when we get to the next slide too, because we had a fun game with it. Excuse me. So our inside and outside comparisons have not occurred yet, but they're taking place now. When we started our seeds outside, we started some new seeds inside so we can compare. And next year when we start school up, we'll start fresh and we'll have some really good comparisons going. Our future utilization of the project, we're going to use these tower gardens every year. That's one thing that's wonderful about them, is they're really easy to maintain, easy to refill. They're very low to the ground. The lights are easy to move around. The nutrients are easy for the students to measure. The little cups are easy for the students to refill. The pH test strips are easy for the students to test and to measure so they can understand the pH. It's easy for the students to measure how tall the plants are getting. One of the really cool things that I like about it is that you can pull the plants out, and a lot of times the kids don't understand about roots. Well, we can pull the roots out and you can see and you can feel the roots, which roots are so abstract to students, especially when you're teaching whole, parts of plants to students. They get real disgusted by the roots, especially when the tower garden has been watering them and you pull them out and the roots are wet. They can feel how the roots have been drinking up that water. So the pre-K kids think it's pretty cool when they feel the roots and they're hairy and they're wet, but you can just pop it back in that tower garden in the hydroponics tower and they keep growing. So really super neat. We can use it year after year. So the benefits, we've measured them. We've measured them with non-standard units with pre-K and kindergarten and first grade. With cubes, we've used blocks. We've even used cars to measure because, that's how little kids measure things. And then in second and third grade, we've started, rulers. We've learned how to add the nutrients. We started with third grade adding the nutrients and it's trickled down. I've had third graders. We use a house system here, kind of like the Ron Clark Academy. So I'm in the house of collaborators and communicators, and I will take a small group of third graders and they will teach the second graders. Then the second graders taught the first graders and the first graders taught the kindergartners in our collaborators and communicators house. And when we have house meetings, that's when we come in and we feed our plants. We've also, here's where we played our game. So when the plants died, when we had that ice storm in January, I just decided I was just going to go ahead and plant. I usually give them a choice of what we're going to plant. I give each grade level a choice in the tower unless we're doing a project with it. And I just decided I was going to go ahead and plant. I was too anxious to start. And we had a guessing game, and we guessed by what the leaves looks like, what the stems look like. And we had sticky notes where we would guess. And some of them just decided that it was some of them were pretty funny, and I wish I had thought to take pictures of it, but they were like, Miss Trout's growing flowers. Well, we kind of clustered those together, flowers. Okay, well, what kind of flowers? Or they said lettuce. Well, let's talk about what kind of lettuce. Is it kale? Is it spinach? Is it Swiss chard? So once we clustered those, it would trickle down, and some of them got pretty close and some of them got right on and some of them were all the way out in left field. So it was pretty interesting to see what they would guess based on some research that we had already done in the fall. Once we, with their background knowledge, what they guessed. So if you'll go to the next slide. All right, so it's really neat. You guys have seen, and I know all of you have probably seen tower gardens before, hydroponics. Our school system has a health and medical, or has an academy focus, and our school is a health and medical academy. So a lot of what we grow in our tower garden, we take to the lunchroom. So on the top left is just seedlings beginning to emerge. On the bottom left is exploring our roots and stems and leaves. They got really excited. That was actually when we pulled out the Swiss chard. And what cracked me up about the Swiss chard is they ate it raw, which was really disgusting to me. I had to wash it off in the sink because when we were pulling it out to cut to bring to the lunchroom, I had to be like, whoa, 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 hold up, stop. I haven't washed it. The lunchroom usually washes it, but let's take it to the sink. If you guys are going to eat it before we even get it to the lunchroom, let's at least wash it. But they were eating that Swiss chard raw. And I held my disgust back because I was very excited that they were enjoying eating raw Swiss chard. But they were so excited. But there they are pulling it out on the bottom left. Very excited to eat that raw Swiss chard. And on the bottom right, the kindergarten was delivering kale and lettuce to the lunchroom. They had a lot, 2 buckets full in our lunchroom. Whatever we deliver to them, they are really good at chopping it up and serving it in our salads. And then on the top right is some tomatoes, sunflower, broccoli, and oh, I didn't finish typing in what it was, but it's also some basil that we have started as seedlings. And this coming week, we're going to transplant into our garden. We had to wait for it to get warm enough at night to be able to acclimate it to our outside garden that we started out here. So all of it started with seeds from our hydroponics. So thank you very much for our hydroponics tower. Our students really love it. We've really enjoyed having it. We've added up how much water, and since we got it back in, gotten the money, received the money, built it, and all of that, we've only had to refill them 4 times for a total of 160 gallons. And I hope within the next month, when we start watering our gardens outside and measuring it, they'll see in just this 1 month between now and the end of school how much water those towers conserve. But these are some of the things that we've grown: the kale, lettuce, microgreens, rainbow Swiss chard, mint, green beans, and spinach have all been delivered to our lunchroom to support our Health and Medical Academy focus. We've also started pumpkins, zinnia, mint, lavender, tomatoes, and broccoli. So lots of fun things we've grown. Next year, we're going to do even more now that we know how to do it and all the kids know how to test it, refill it. So we've really had a lot of fun in pulling in those math and science standards, writing about it. It's really been cross-curricular here in the Heart Lab, so not just science.
Fantastic. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. Okay, we're
Thank
going to
you.
now move to CarlaLee, talking about Mill Creek Elementary's project that was kicked off by Jackie. Carla?
Good morning, everyone. It's first of all, I want to say thank you so much. And we miss Jackie so much, and she really has such a depth of knowledge that I'm still learning, and I'm sure that I'm not going to do her ideas justice. I've only been working on this for about a month, but thank you for letting me be here. If you'll go to the next slide. So Jackie had designed a engineering lab, and so she had set up she had multiple ideas that this grant was funding. Green power, she had designed to launch a weather balloon, drones, and then the Sphero bolts races, and just multi-points to engage her students. She worked with 5th graders. I am the STEM teacher, and so I am working with kindergarten through 5th graders. She was with the students every day, and she would have classes rotate to her for 45 minutes every day. I see the classes for 30 minutes once a week. And so what she was able to do, she had a lot more time with the kids. So one thing that there is like automatic success on is how the students maintained the green power racing cars. One of our cars has won first place in the past 7 races. Another car won second at the most recent race, and then the third car won 10th at that race. So for the Spheros and the drones, that's how we encountered our problems. Our school issued Chromebooks, we are a one-to-one system, and our school issued Chromebooks do not support the virtual platform used by the drones. And so the students brought in their personal devices, and not every student has a personal device, so they were very kind in sharing with their friends. And what we have designed for our future, and we are so excited to do next year, is using the drones to create a virtual school tour. And so they've just been working on getting comfortable flying the drones. But then the idea that new students to Mill Creek can kind of tour the hallways and see where all of the things are is very exciting for them. The benefits to the students is they've gained confidence in their abilities, and it's exciting that they get so excited about mentoring younger students. Using Scratch to code and just multiple coding platforms through the Spheros has been really neat too. If you'll go to the next slide. And there's a picture of the Green Power Racing team on March 21st with those wins. That was right after Jackie passed away. And so they went in and decorated the car in her memory. And then I also put a picture on there of the things my fifth graders were the most excited about, which was going into the younger students' classrooms and sharing their presentations with them, and just being able to show off what the younger students are getting to look forward to learning as they get older. There are some of our racing results. There will be a race, not today, but next Saturday, and that will be the final race for the season.
Congratulations. And again, thank you for helping us kind of learn on about Jackie's last projects, and what an amazing individual, and what an impact she's had on students for so many years. And thank you for helping to convey just a little bit of some of the work that she's worked on. CarlaLee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shana Smith from Ralph Askins School in Fayetteville, you're on next.
Okay, well, thank you. I am a K through fifth grade teacher. I have a STEM lab. I meet with the students weekly. And they're always excited to find out what we're going to be doing in STEM, because it's always a big mystery to them what project we're going to start working on next. So I wanted to first thank everybody for their support, because first of all, I love this part of the year. I love the final reporting, because I love to see what everybody else is doing, because I learn so much from the other teachers, and find out what kind of things are out there that I could implement into my program, and things that I could use with my students. I had no idea that they had software where you could virtually build a computer, and that these kind of things were even a possibility. So I really appreciate being a part of this, just for the learning aspect for myself. So we didn't really have too many problems this year. We did receive our microscopes and iPads a little later than we would have liked, but these were the two main things we purchased with our grant. If you're not familiar, using microscopes with small children, kindergarten through fifth grade, can be a real challenge. Most of them need to be plugged in. There's only a few plugs in my classroom that was built in 1958. So I found these from Brock Optical. They're called the Magiscope, and we ordered several of them, and I already had a couple. And so we were able to use those with the children this year, and they enjoyed it so much. Those were very user friendly. And also with our funds, we ordered some iPads. We're still, as somebody else mentioned, the Chromebooks that we have for our students, they don't support all the apps. They won't do everything that we need them to do. So the iPads are necessary to work with some of the different things that we have in our classroom. And we use two main apps, websites. Code.org is something that our students use from 2nd through 5th grade. And we have little robots called B-bots. They're also called Blue bots, the Bluetooth connective ones are. And so we use an app to not only control the Blue bots, but also there's an app to help the students learn coding on the computer instead of just working with the robot. So those are two things that our kids do with the iPads. Through trial and error, we figured out that these protective cases work the best. Just in case anybody is curious, some of the ones that have the little triangular flaps, those flaps just always break off, and so the kids, they're always getting destroyed. But these kind work really well, so that was something else we were able to get with our funds. So talking about the microscopes, the kids, part of what we do in STEM Lab every week is we talk about how this relates to jobs, how this relates to real life, what opportunities are available, who uses a microscope. And, the kids just really had no idea. Their answer was scientists. Well, who do you consider a scientist? Doctors, when they swab your throat, they use the microscope to look under there. Nurses, the veterinarian, when they're looking to see what's causing the itchy skin with your dog or cat, they're swabbing and looking under the microscope. The people, we have a partnership with our local utilities company, and they come out and they talk about electrical safety. They talk about the water purity. And so I said, the people at FPU Water Department are taking samples of the water daily. They're looking under the microscope to make sure that our water's pure, that it doesn't have too many bad things, that it has all the right good things in it. So the kids really enjoyed that. And I think it opened their eyes to some of the kind of jobs that they could have available to them. And the first thing we did is we look under the microscopes to see our fingerprints, just to see, our skin, and see the ridges and whorls. And, you don't see that with the naked eye. And so they're so amazed. Even the kindergartners were using the microscopes to look at their shirt, to look at their fabric, to look at their skin. And then, of course, I had some slides with different samples and of animals and plants and things. And then we brought in plants. Everything's blooming in the spring, so we were able to bring in flowers and roots and leaves, and they were just so amazed to see the hairs on the roots and the hairs on the leaves and things. So the microscopes were a great addition to our lab, because we wouldn't have been able to do so much of that if we hadn't had been able to purchase a few more. Then let's see, move to the next slide if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, so part of what another part of what our funds were used for was for just the consumable goods. I know that you guys are STEM teachers as well. You know that there's a lot of things that you do in your classroom that use things like microscopes that you can use for 20 years, 30 years. There's things like iPads that will last a long time. But then there's also just the consumable goods that are required. We have building blocks and things like these Lincoln logs that these kids were building with. They can be used for years on end. But then there's things like bubble solution, just the different chemicals that you're using, and baking soda and vinegar, just all those different types of things that we need to explore with. here are some pictures. So the building challenges, the top picture is the Lincoln logs. On the left, we made marble mazes. Last year we did roller coasters. This year we did marble mazes. You know, their challenge was to change the direction. And we also bring in subject matter experts. You know, lots of people like Mr. Doherty we have here in our community. We're so lucky. We invite the meteorologist from the local weather station. So that's Danielle Dozier. If you don't recognize her, she came to talk to our kids about meteorology and the weather and what she does on a daily basis, and they love that. We did a lot of measurement activities because I know as a classroom teacher, that was something that we didn't have a lot of time for hands-on. We had a lot of paper pencil activities that we did, but when I was teaching first and second grades, we weren't able to do that in a hands-on manner. So here are these students that are blowing bubbles. They made their own bubble solution. They were measuring the bubbles afterward. So that was one way that we can incorporate measurement to see who could get the biggest bubble, you know, and they really enjoyed that challenge. We also made not slingshots, but I've lost the word, but you know, to launch launchers, and they had to measure, you know, how far their catapult, that's the word I was looking for. They had to measure how far their catapult would launch a marshmallow. And of course, they're not used to the practical application of having to use a yardstick, or what if it's longer than a yardstick? You have to put two yardsticks together and adding all of that, or putting more than one ruler length together. That's just something that they needed hands-on experience with. So that's the kind of things that we did. I have one more slide, I believe. Okay. And then of course, engineering challenges. Every year for years on end, we've done an egg drop where they have to design a contraption and make sure the egg doesn't crack. So, you know, part of what we were doing was exploring the engineering design process and engineering the slow fall and how to make it fall slowly and land smoothly. So that's what this little boy has. He's got his little paper project to help him learn how that process works. And then some houses they designed. Something else we were able to purchase with funds was owl pellets. So I don't know if you know, but owl pellets are kind of expensive. So we were able to get some of those. I love the expression on the student's face because she's totally disgusted with what she finds inside the owl pellet and what an owl pellet is. And but then they're just loving it. You know, they're just digging in. They've got their gloves, they got their tweezers, they've got their bone chart sheet there. They've got their little hand lens that they're looking at everything, trying to decide if it's a jawbone or a leg bone or whatever. So that was another fun thing we got to do this year that the kids really enjoyed. So we really appreciate your support and thank you.
A pleasure. And again, those expressions on some of the students, I particularly like this student here, mouth wide open. Wow. I love it. That's so great to see. Thank you, Shana. Okay, now we're going to go forth through the eighth grades, and we're going to have Lynn McQueen from Holy Spirit and Brandi Glenn on tap. So the NASA space logo team, I believe that is Lynn. Is that correct?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, take it away, Lynn.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of background about our Lego team. A year ago, when I proposed that, or actually a student proposed to me that we have a Lego team, I said, sure, that's fine. Well, you know, I can take about 25 students in the lab to work with them after school. And so I put a message out to the parents of the school, and I had over 200 kids apply to be in the Lego club. Ended up taking 75. So I had, you know, 4 days of of Lego after school. And as we worked through the challenges last year, I had some students that wanted more advanced builds. So we decided this year that we were going to do a NASA space Lego team, since we are, here in the heart of NASA. And we found the different actual NASA made Legos, replicas. So that's what we wrote the grant for. My 8th grade students did a unit on Oppie and the rover that went to Mars, and they really were intrigued about that. So we decided to get the Saturn V, the space shuttle, the space station, and Perseverance, the rover. And I only took 10 students in this group since the builds are so advanced. And I had one student who is a 2nd grader come ask me if he could be a part of it. And I was like, well, Philip, do you really think that you can build, a build this advanced? And he said, Miss McQueen, no problem. And I said, well, okay. So if you will change to the next slide for me, please. Those are the builds that we picked. And then the next one, if you'll advance. This is my 2nd grader who built the Saturn V all on his own. He built it in 5 class sessions, which are about 45 minutes. And when he was finished with it, he had to go show our principal. He was extremely proud of his build. The build is actually over 2,000 pieces. He built it completely on his own. He didn't work with a partner. Very rarely did he say, Miss McQueen or Miss Johnson, I need help. So I was extremely impressed by this young man and his capabilities. It was very, very exciting. So if you'll go to the next slide. About our team members range from 2nd grade to 8th grade. We meet every Tuesday for, like I said, about 45 minutes with cleanup time, an hour. We have 10 members, 2 lead teachers, and our project is going to actually reach our entire school, which is about 453 students, 24 classrooms. And we'll be able to continue this project since we have the builds for years to come. And the overall end result is for these students that are building these replicas is to go into the classrooms and not only educate the teachers through a teacher workshop on each of the builds, but to go into the classroom and talk to the students. And we'll get to that in just a minute on another slide. But if you'll go to the next slide, it shows you how tall Philip's Saturn V is compared to him, right at the head length. Then the next picture, they worked in a partnership to build the Perseverance rover. They didn't have a hand manual. They actually had to go online and do it from online, which makes it even harder to create that build. It just in the swapping back and forth of pictures and stuff and making sure that everything is in place. And then the other 2 are just builds that he has already accomplished. He's gotten through 4 builds already. And the bottom one is actually a picture that is inside and outside of his build. So it's kind of cool that you can actually see the inner workings of that space shuttle. The next slide. It does take concentration and precision, because if you don't put one, piece in the correct spot, or if you skip a step, then you have to go back and figure out what's what. That was part of the challenge. And they were really good about doing that. And if somebody had an issue, sometimes when Lego sends things, there are pieces missing. So they had to go into our big bucket and find something that would work instead. We're thankful that we now have a Lego store here in town that works with us to help us find pieces that didn't come with the set. So the next slide. This is when they were picking their first rounds of builds, and they were very intent on getting the exact ones that they wanted. So you can see they were excited to get the build that they wanted. The next slide, I'm actually going to pull over to my camera because they say that the links didn't come up. So excuse me while I move my phone, and I'm going to move to my computer so y'all can actually see how the students went down to kindergarten after they have finished their build to explain to them or teach them about their build. So I'm going to click that on right now. Hopefully y'all can hear it and see it. So everything that we have put into space and we have a Lego set up, they have built. It's all from NASA. They're all NASA proteges. So they wanted to come down and show you and talk to you about their builds. And then this is just something, well, this is part of it, but this is side note. Oops. Here. Okay, so to get me, I'm trying to keep looking. Together we built the dance rubber.
Hey, Lynn, you're not, your video's not on.
Is it not? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me go back. I clicked off of it. Give me just a second, guys. Sorry, technical difficulties. Video up.
Oh, the inner universe that we know of. That
Can you see it now?
Yep, I see you. We see you, but we don't see anything else.
Yeah, Paul, you're going to have to let her.
There you go. There you go.
do
Yeah,
the
she pointed at the
So
screen.
what they're going to do next year, guys, is build a terrain model, okay, like a landscape model of Mars out in the outdoor classroom. And we're going to motorize this. So y'all will be able to drive the Perseverance. And when he says motorize, he means make it be able to do. I turn it off.
Wait a minute, can that fall?
Watch.
What's impossible? You have to block it. Class, be respectful and get this stairs, please.
So they're going to make that one be able to do. He is kind of crazy. He has a lot of energy. Oh my gosh. So it'll be to where it looks like Mars, and they'll be able to drive over that with the rover. Okay? Not yet. They're going to have to add the motor.
Yeah.
So he clears the way first before the rover comes in there.
Yeah. Hey, Lynn, it's really
Yeah.
kind of hard to see.
Okay.
What I'll try to do is share those links in the meeting minute and the meeting chat, and then maybe they can access, or Ron maybe could share a copy.
That's the same problem I was running into. Those links are broken for some reason.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe just tell us briefly what we would have been seeing.
Yeah, so they went down to the kindergarten and they were telling the students all about what their builds were, like the Perseverance, and the reason that NASA sent the Perseverance to Mars, and just an overall explanation and taught the kids, and they were very excited about having the opportunity possibly next year actually being able to run the rover themselves. And then Philip talked about the Saturn V and how it went to space, and all the background detail of it. So they were very knowledgeable, and that was part of our plan, was to have lessons that these students could go down and use in the younger classroom. So this was the start of that. So if you'll go to the next picture, next slide. This is what we hope to kind of build for next year in our outdoor classroom area, is just a landscape model of Mars and the terrain. And then they've already started working on motorizing the Perseverance rover that they built. So very, very exciting. And the only issue that we ran into, and it wasn't really an issue, but I thought it was kind of funny. I wanted to share with you is we only meet once a week and for an hour. And the other day, I had a student say, okay, when we told them it was time to start cleaning up, they said, no, we're rebelling. And I said, what do you mean you're rebelling? And they said, we want to keep building. We want to keep going. And I said, well, how long do you want to keep going till? And they said, well, um, 6 o'clock. And I said, well, why 6 o'clock? And he said, well, because dinner's at 6:30 and I have to be home for dinner. And so, I mean, it was hilarious, but I love their enthusiasm, and they go back to their classes and they talk about, you know, their Lego team. And so other students are interested. I've gotten emails from other parents saying, "Kay, can my son or my daughter be a part of this?" So I think it's a great program, and we really appreciate the opportunity and the money. You know, I've done STEDTRAIN for, gosh, I don't know how many years, guys, but I really do appreciate all the opportunities that we've had. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, and thank you, and congrats. One thing that all of the educators may want to know is go to the nasa.gov website from time to time. There's an educators link that you can go and get a whole slew of educator tools and insights. And you can also go and they have a link where as missions come up before they are launched, they often have a program where the public can add their names or names of loved ones or friends or children and have the information get placed on a chip microscopically on the rover or spacecraft that is heading out to some new destination. And that's how I got my name on the Perseverance. So as it motors around Mars, it's got my name and I think 11 million other people's names etched onto part of the robot. So look for that. It's a really cool thing to do. And again, thanks, Lynn, for all your great work with the students at Holy Spirit.
Thank you so much.
All right, Brandi, Meridianville Middle School. Oh, the places we will grow, a STEM project in hydroponics.
Thank you. So the idea I had for a proposal for a grant was to focus on our regular science classroom and how we can embed something in our regular curriculum instead of our extracurriculars or specials. So something that would hit every kid that would come through the class. You can go to the next slide. And so we originally looked at hydroponic towers after I had seen it at in someone's classroom where I was doing some professional development, and I was like, "What's that? That's really cool, and it looks lifey and green, and I want something like that." But there were some changes that happened with that. But anyway, the success of the project was, can they explore all the science behind plant growth and cultivation? And can we make it connected from the very beginning of 7th grade science, which is cells, all the way to the end, which is ecosystems? And how could we continuously use this throughout the year? So one thing that we did decide to do was in a room, first of all, was not used to having the number of students that I had this year in regular classroom. Typically 28 would be a pretty big class, and all my classes are around 33 or 34. And for every other 2 kids you get in a class, I mean, it just takes up space. So with the idea of having the 2 towers, we just really didn't have the room for the kids and the towers and to be able to move around with their bags and the variety of sizes you get from a 7th grader. You can have a little bitty one, and you can have one with a full beard just about in middle school. That's middle school. And so what we did do is change over to doing tabletop hydroponic stations. And in this way, we were able to purchase 12 of those instead of 2 towers. Then I could divide them into groups, and they all manage their own smaller versions, and we'll see some pictures of that. The problems we encountered were great because they made us solve them. So maintaining the right nutrient levels, the adequate flow, and the growth and space constraints with these tabletops. The plants will drink up different amounts of water depending on how big they are. When they're little baby seedlings, they don't drink too much. But when you get huge big daddy tomato plants growing in there, you're refilling that water on these smaller tanks every day. And so when they grow, they really grow. And so we started, really using up some space in the room. Um, we use this year to kind of see how do we connect it to our curriculum so that we can maybe expand it to other teachers. I can divide up my 12 and still keep 2 or 3 and share the other 2 or 3 with the other 2 science teachers for 7th grade. We think this would be great to use in a STEM showcase. It's good for peer mentors. And every year, one of our extracurriculars and our specials is called GEMS, which is girls engaged in math and science. They do an in-depth research project, and then they share that in an expo with a table and their data and all of that. My girls this year have seen those in the room, and they're like, hey, that's what we want to focus on next year. When we go out and share, we want to use some of those and explain and share that. The other thing that we've actually started right now for future use is we were recipients of the Tomato Sphere project, which is through NASA, the tomato seeds that have been in space, and they send you packets. You don't know which ones were in space and which ones are regular non-space seeds. So we're going to put packs in 2 different stations, hydroponic stations. It's a citizen science project, so we have to upload our data of the growth. And then when we're done with that, they'll let us know which one was in space, and we can see if our hypothesis is correct on what we see growing. So we're really excited to do that, and they've given us enough to do for all my classes for fall next year as well. So they get tons of critical thinking, experimenting, and teamwork. And as far as professional development, for me, I would love to share it with other teachers, but I would also love to talk to sponsors who would be willing to fund for these type of projects. I think it's really important that we get in front of those corporate people and they see some of the real stuff that we do. And you could go to the next slide. So here's some of our pictures, and starting in the top right with a kind of purple picture, that is one of the stations. Just as we've placed the seed pods in, we could grow 12 plants. So 12 plants in 12 stations, 144 plants in one small science lab classroom. But you can see where it's pretty easy for a group of 4 or 5 to work together on that one station. These are automatic with the UV lights, and also with the pump and the circulation, it manages that part. You can program the lights for fruit or for veggies, depending on what you're doing. The second picture down was the culmination of the whole project. I promised them if we grew successfully, we would do a pico or salsa party, and we did manage to do that. The picture on the bottom right are some of my girls harvesting the jalapenos and tomatoes prior to our salsa celebration. On the left lower is the seedlings starting to grow. That's on a pretty low level, but we were starting to see leaves and sprouts, and we were maintaining those. The gentleman right above that one has extracted some DNA from some tomatoes that we grew. We have done strawberries and tomatoes. So this was on our genetics unit, which is in our science, 7th grade science curriculum. So how could I tie my plant growth into genetics? And there's tons of stuff you could do there. They were all able to take a gooey clump of the DNA home. We put it in a little, a small container, and you could walk around and see these kids wearing them on necklaces. They were walking around with tomato and strawberry DNA as necklaces. And then we've got some gentlemen at the top just maintaining the nutrients. So we could go to the next slide. So we wanted to see how hydroponics function compared to traditional soil. which we do that as well. But this allowed us to do a lot of stuff inside during frosty and cold weather and still be able to have our own materials for things like genetics falls in November, and that would be difficult. November to December would be difficult for us to get it from outside. And also, you know, if you have issues with soil, can you still do that? If you have small spaces, could you still grow? And so all of that came through. We watched that plant growth and development. We did a lot of troubleshooting. We really tried to see how we could connect this to all different types of science disciplines. And then they just worked together collaboratively and then problem solving. It was pretty immersive and it was definitely experiential. And the next slide. And I think this is just our last one. We had tons of pictures, but I just really wanted you to see how much growth you have in those top pictures. They our lights are expanded as tall as they can, and we have now transplanted most of these outside. We had some chamomile flowers we grew for our pollinator garden. We have the veggies for our demonstration garden that's outside, and so it was nice to already have plants now in March and April that were already blooming rather than just starting seeds now outside. And the bottom middle picture is all of us working on the extraction of the DNA during that genetics unit. Sorry I talked really fast, but I know we're kind of going long. It was very exciting and I can't wait to do this again next year. Most of the materials are already paid for and now it's just maintaining it year after year. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
There we go. Hazel Green. So Teresa's going to talk to us about their virtual PC building simulator and programming activities. And let me put it in full screen.
Okay. Thank you. I also have grandchildren this morning, so.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. Okay, there you go.
Fantastic.
Tell me when you.
All right. So, hey, I'm Teresa Hodge. I'm from Hazel Green High School. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the donations and the support of our programs, because it does make a huge difference when you're able to invest in equipment and software and things to help the kids, because it's super expensive, everything that we have to give them. So I think you skipped a page. Can you go back a page?
Nope.
There we go. All right, that's okay.
There. Thank you. Good catch.
You're good. I was like, I think you missed the first page, but that's all right. So my project was I bought.
It's on automatic. Hang on a second.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa, wait, keep going. Okay.
I was like, what is going on here?
I can read fast. I just don't know I can read that fast.
I'm going to leave it like that, and then I'll advance it on your call.
You're good. You're good. Technology, we deal with it every day, so it's okay.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. It's early. All right. So at Hazel Green High School, I teach computer science, and I just started a new class, information technology. And my information technology class is an intro class for 9th and 10th graders. And so what my grant was for was a PC building virtual simulator and also some VR goggle headsets for VR programming. And so the success of the project was I had over 60 students use the computer simulator software. And it was actually way better than what I anticipated that it was. It was a little tricky to get set up because we had to run it through a PC cafe, but the students would actually not only learn about the computer hardware, but they were also simulating a workplace IT management system. So in other words, when the students got onto the simulator, they had a virtual workstation with a computer. They had to go to their email, and in their email would be job requests from people. So they'd have to read the email, accept the request that they wanted. And each of the emails, it would give specifics about what the request was, like maybe someone wanted their video card upgraded to a certain amount, or a new hard drive, or more memory, or maybe the computer just wasn't working at all. And so the students had to accept and then in the job itself, it would give them a budget of what the people wanted to spend. So that's how much they were going to get paid. And so after they read the emails, they would accept their jobs. But then even after they accepted the jobs, they had to walk to the door, like get up, walk to the door to end the day. And then after the day ended, they'd go the next day and there'd be computers in the hallway. So then they'd have to click on the computer, take it to their workstation. They'd have to take it apart. Like if there were screws, they had to unscrew it. If there was cables, they had to unhook them. And then they had to take all the old parts out. Then they actually had to go to their computer, look for the right new part. And not only look for the new part, but look for one that was affordable. Because like say they wanted a video card changed, and they only had a $500 budget, they wouldn't want to buy a $600 video card. So they couldn't just buy whatever part they wanted. So they would buy the part. And then once again, they had to walk to the door to end the day before the parts would ship. And so it was really very realistic. So a lot of times they would do several jobs before they ended the day, so that if they had to order parts, you know, they would be coming in the next day. So it was a continual of computers coming in, parts coming in. But each day they had a calendar. They had to pay utilities. They had to pay rent. They had a budget. So they had how much was in their account. And some of the kids, it was funny because I'd be like, Miss Hodge, I'm in the negative. What do I do? Because I could go into the negative, but it was an awesome experience. And the cool thing was the kids loved it and they learned a lot because especially like graphics cards. I mean, there's, you know, RAM on or, you know, the memory on the graphics card. So they would get confused about which one, they'd have to find it. And it was really good. All the cabling. I mean, and then even like CPU, they had to put the paste on the cooling paste on the CPU. Is really, really realistic. So the kids loved it. And the other really cool thing about it is it's on all the computers. So a lot of times, especially in programming, I have kids get ahead. And it gave them something to do. So like if they were done with all of their programming, they could work on the PC simulator. They weren't just, you know, trying to play games or just, you know, they actually had something to catch their attention. And I had a couple kids actually go home and buy it for their own computers. So it was really pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, it was one of the best things I've invested in actually, as far as curriculum, because it really taught the kids a lot. Now with the VR goggles, we're still getting those up and running. So I was finally able to get, they have virtual programming for them, which is the students, it's like a little robot guy, but you have to get them through all these obstacle courses. But to do it, you have to use program code. And so it's virtual. So the guy's virtual, but they reach out with their hands to grab whichever code they want. And like they build their program in this virtual environment, which was really pretty cool. Right now I'm kind of limited because I just have I'm up to 5 VR goggles, which we're trying to get some money to get some more. But that was really pretty cool, especially sometimes kids, they need to be immersed in what they're doing. Even with programming, you just see lines of code on the screen. It's a little bit, you know, harder to get them excited. But when it's kind of in a game format where they're reaching out, grabbing the code and, you know, making them jump across the lake and move to the left and get in the boat, you know, it's pretty cool. So that was really, really exciting to see the kids get excited about doing that. So we're actually got another grant. So we're going to hopefully invest in some more VR goggles in the near future. So the students were awesome, and it definitely engaged them and helped them get excited about both computer hardware and the programming portion of it. So problems in the resolution, it was difficult to get the simulator software on the network. I'll be honest. If anybody decides they would like to do it in the future, I can help them with it, because in order to get it, I have to personally, I had to create a PC Steam cafe, which is basically a server for my own personal cafe of Steam on the computers. It's definitely worth it because there is a lot of educational software. Like Steam is a gaming software system, but there's also a lot of educational software. And the good thing about the Steam cafe is you pick what's on the students' computers and it's locked to whatever you put on there. So it's very controllable. Its intent is really for like cafes where people pay to play video games, but it can be used in an educational setting. So that was the biggest thing, getting it up and running. So also the management system for the VR headset. I finally found one. I think we're going to go with Arbor XR. That's a management system for the VR goggles, which once again limits what's on the VR goggles. So it's not just when you put them on, you're not looking at an Oculus. Yes, you're not just looking at the Oculus Quest menu, which kids can get around, and you don't really know what they're doing.
Yep.
But the Arbor XR is really good. All they see is what you put on there. It's whatever background you want, and then whatever apps you want them to look at. So it's very controllable. Our problem was the cost, but Arbor XR has an education. If anybody's interested in the future, I'm just letting you know they have an educational cost, which is $4 per device per month, which isn't horrific, especially if you've got minimum number of devices. But it's fantastic. It's a really good management system for your devices. So, okay, next slide, I think. All right. So future utilization, we'll be using both the VR piece, the headsets, and the PC building simulator in our IT classes in the future. I've used it for my IT fundamentals, but you wouldn't believe how many students in my other classes, because I teach AP, when they're done with their work, they're like, Miss Hodge, what's this PC builder that I have on here? And I'm like, you can use it. And so it's, once you get the cost, I think the cost for 30 computers was like close to $400. But once you have it, it's there. And once you get it set up and running, it's always there, which is great. We are also extending the VR headsets to establish a school VR lab. TVA, hopefully we're getting our $10,000 grant hopefully next week, and we'll be upgrading to 15 Oculus 3s to actually create a VR lab in our library. So we're really excited about that. Benefit to the students. The students really learned how the computer parts work and how they're connected together. I had a lot of them go, Miss Hodge, I can't, especially putting it back together. Like if they forgot to hook up cables, or it wouldn't let them turn the computer on. If they had removed an outside slot and they forgot to put it back, they couldn't turn it on. So at the end, they custom built their own computers with the money that they earned. So that's what they were doing. The goal was to earn as much as they could and then build their own in the custom simulator to build their own. And it's funny because some kids would go and buy the best of everything, but the worst power supply. So their computer would run for like 30 seconds and then go to the blue screen, and they're like, Miss Hodge. And I'm like, well, you're running at, first of all, you're running at 83 degrees Celsius, which is very hot. You need more fans, and then your battery. So, but they learned a lot. And a lot of those kids, they're like, oh, I want to build my own computer. So they're really getting excited about the hardware on that. The computer, it did get them excited about computer programming. And in the future, we wish to add, I want to take the VR goggles and use Unity, which does a virtual reality. You can program a VR game, but you can program it in VR while you're programming the VR game. So with the headsets on, it mimics it casts what's on your screen to the headsets. So they'll actually be able to program in Unity and watch their game develop as they're programming it. So that's my ultimate goal, because that's a class we're going to add next year. Well, the next year, in the next couple of years, it'll be a video game development class. But the video game development, we would like them to be developing VR games, not just programming, lines of code. So, and I think that's my last slide. Here's the photos.
Yep.
So there's some of the students using the VR headsets. They loved those. They were, and then the PC, the students using the PC building simulator. I had one student that was so good at the PC building simulator, and he was good at programming. So he was way ahead. He actually made a guide for the other students. I gave him a little bit of extra credit, but
wow.
he went through and he made helpful hints and what to do, and if your program has this. So I had him in the fall. So in my spring class, I was able to give them Langston's wisdom. It was a guide, but you can see him in one of the photos, the bottom left photo. He's actually going around, and I let him help students. You can kind of see on their screens, a little small, but you can kind of see on their screens where they're using their workstation and building the PC parts. And then on the bottom right, that's where the students are actually in their inventory, trying to pick which parts they're doing. So it was great. And like I said, I definitely appreciate all the support, because without it, you all know, your teachers. It's really hard. So our goal is to get students excited about IT. I do feel like this was accomplished. I had students using the PC simulator and the VR headsets in their free time, not just when assigned. And I was really surprised, because I do have stuff on the headsets, like a couple of fun things. And when I let students use it in their free time, you'd be surprised. I have a lot of them going in there and doing, because I have some free dissections in there, like some, I think they're dissecting a frog and one's dissecting a shark. I have students go in there and actually do the dissections in their free time, just for fun. So, which is good. That's a good thing. I was like, okay. So she's like, oh, come on, this is cool. I'm dissecting. And then I had students successfully build a working computer from what they learned in the simulator. So that was our ultimate goal. They did very well. So.
And congratulations. I had the opportunity to visit Miss Hodge's classroom and see her very, very engaged students. And I will agree with her. The quality of that PC simulator software was astounding. Um, she talks about having to remove parts and stuff. They have some really beautiful 3D renderings of the parts that have to be accessed and removed or bolted back in. And it was a really well done.
It is.
So kudos for landing that package.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely recommend other teachers consider that. The whole idea of students being so excited that they want to come in on their free time and pursue something like that. That's fantastic. So very, very, very impressive.
Yeah. And like I said, if anyone's interested in the future, they can just shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to tell them where I got the software or, what we're using, especially if they're interested in the VR headsets. There are a lot more expensive packages out there. I bought some that were supposed to be specifically designed for the school. They're called VR Classroom or something like that, but they didn't work near as well as the Oculus, and that was the cheapest route we could go with the software. So if anybody's interested in that in the near future, trust me, I've spent a lot of time investing and researching. So if they need any help, I'd be more than happy to help.
Yes,
Great.
thank you. I'm Monica Hobson, and I am the lead education mentor for the Rockets Robotics team in Limestone County. We're based at the Limestone County Career Technical Center, and this is my 20th year to be a mentor. And I have with me, we are a very, we are a students first team, so we try to put as much responsibility in the hands of the students, which is easy when you have the types of students that we have in 9th through 12th grade. So I'm going to turn it over to my student and let her go through the presentation.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I am an 11th grader at Athens Renaissance School, and I've been on Team 34 for 4 years now. So you can go to the next slide now. So First Robotics Competition is a K through 12 robotics organization, and our team operates under First Robotics Competition. So each year we are challenged to design, build, program, and market a very large robot within 6 to 10 weeks, and then we take it to competition. So this year we used our STEDTRAIN money to purchase the motors and the wheels that drive our robot. Obviously we cannot have a robot without the drive base. So we use a drive base called Swerve Drive, and this allows our robot to go forward while spinning, which can produce an incredibly fast robot, and it helps us to do the challenges so much faster than it would if we had a different kind of less expensive drive base. So the way that the game works is you get 2.5 minutes to create or to play a game. And this year the game was to shoot big orange rings. They kind of look like lifesavers, but they're really big, into different goals. And so you get 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the first 15 seconds is fully autonomous. So having such fast wheels and such a fast drivetrain really helps us with our just to be able to complete the task. We also were able to use some of the money to buy motors so that we did not have to keep redoing our Swerve Drive. At the past competitions, it has been a really big problem of, oh, the motors stopped working on the Swerve Drive. We have to switch them out in the middle of the competition. And so we have had times where we were queuing for a match and our build members had the Swerve Drive in their hands because the motor wasn't working. And that was like the most stressful experiences of some of our lives. Like it was so bad. But this year we were able to buy those extra better motors so we didn't have to do that. So we're incredibly grateful for that money saving us that stress this year. We had a very successful year. If you want to go to the next page. So throughout build season, our team was able to learn working CNC machines and wiring up those swerve drives. And then we actually got to attend 3 competitions this year. We competed in Laurel, Mississippi, where we were awarded the First Impact Award, which is the biggest award that you can win in FIRST Robotics competition. And this is the Community Service Award. So it's how much our team has impacted our community. So through these robotics competitions and the STEM, we are doing a much deeper thing by impacting the community. And this year we were recognized for that. We also competed at the Rocket City Regional in Huntsville, where we were awarded the Team Spirit Award. So we have built some really exceptional partnerships with other teams. Our favorite partnership is with a team from Brazil. We are so close to them and their students because they have come and visited us for the past 2 years. So they get to use some of the same tools and batteries and such that our team has purchased with the STEDTRAIN money. So you guys are even helping teams outside of the country by helping our team. We were awarded the Team Spirit Award at the Rocket City Regional by working with those teams. And then I was also awarded an individual award, the STEDTRAIN, or not the STED, the Dean's List. And I wouldn't be able to be on the team if it wasn't for STEDTRAIN grants, because the money that we receive actually goes into my personal dues. So this helps me to be on the team because as like an underprivileged student, and a lot of the other underprivileged students on our team are only able to be on the team because of generous donations from organizations like STEDTRAIN. Since we won the First Impact Award in Mississippi, we were able to compete at the First Robotics World Championship in Houston with 600 teams from around the globe. And our team and our robot actually did much better than we expected. We were able to score against these teams that won their entire regional, and we were very impressed with the way that our team and robot succeeded there. We did not place, but we did very well, and it was such a cool learning experience, and we were able to promote all of our sponsors to around 50,000 people that attended that competition. So we are just so grateful to have received this money, and we can't wait to continue using the swerve drives that we bought for years forward.
I think that's pretty much everything. She covered everything.
Okay, well, congratulations, Chloe. Thank you very much for the very impressive presentation. Monica, thank you for encouraging and involving the students. Great work.
Thank you.
And now, Marty, if you are able, I know you are driving to Dallas as we speak. If you can, I've got your first slide up.
Alrighty, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, ma'am.
Alrighty, we are 222 miles.
Hey, Marty, how about taking it off of video?
Okay, let me
Marty?
see.
Marty,
Okay, hold on.
maybe drop video,
Okay, how is that?
but much better. You were breaking up earlier.
Okay. Alrighty, well, we are on our way to Dallas with our STEDTRAIN grants this year. I know everybody can see everything on here. We are running our robotics program. And by the way, thank you, Team 34. You were a big help to some of my rookie kids this year at first robotics competition. We have Team 547. But we are using our grant money to build our VEX program. We've added middle school teams, and the reason we're on our way to Dallas is because our first year all girls middle school team made it to the World Championships. And I want to put a kudos into Paul for coming out and helping our kids by drilling them and helping them with interview processes. And STEDTRAIN in general has been a huge help in building our program in different areas. This year we added on 3 new middle school teams, and we're continuing to add on to our field. So hopefully in the future, we are looking at starting our own competitions at Lincoln County, which we give to the next slide. There's a lot of really good programs out there for robotics, and I love that we're seeing people working on coding with kids, because when they come to us, our youngest member of the team happens to be in the vehicle with us at the time, and she's in 4th grade. These kids are coding, but they're not doing virtual reality. They're actually coding the robots that are going on the field so they can see real time what the effects are going to be. We are trying to share what we know about robotics and STEDTRAIN with multitudes of people. I think we have a really good sized outreach for all of our Lincoln County folks, and that would be Ron and Paul comes up too. And I'm sure in Alabama, y'all come to the Lincoln County Fair, where we have a display every year. And through that display, we're reaching, they figure, over 10,000 people run through the commercial building. So we're reaching out to them. We've been reaching out to all our feeder schools. We're getting ready to go and do a parade of robots through all of our feeder schools on May 13th. We're advertising.
Marty, you're breaking up. I've advanced it to the next photo.
Sharing robots, STEDTRAIN.
And I've now moved it to goals and results.
Some of our other supporters.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad, Marty.
We are literally.
Hey, Marty, I'm going to leave it on goals and results. Let them have a chance to read that.
Sorry.
And then we're going to move on.
They outreached over 100,000 people.
And hey, Marty, we're going to leave it at that. Good luck on your Dallas competition, and drive safely. And thank you.
Thank you. I think we can read that chat.
Okay, we're now going to go on to New Century Technology High School and discuss their biotechnology foundations. And go right ahead.
Okay, apologies. I've been traveling a lot for work. I'm not Debbie Brenner. My name is Sarah Mason. Miss Brenner is no longer working at New Century, but I've kind of taken over for her in her classes, and just trying to do all different kinds of things with New Century this year. So we received $1,870 for the purchase of some biotech equipment. And originally this money was going to go to the purchase of a bench pH meter and some new really delicate scales. And then our thermocycler broke, and we use PCR in several classes across. At least 4 teachers use it across several classes, across all grades in school. And so we kind of had a little panic moment and had to kind of pivot to figure out how we could fill that gap. And we found the Mini One systems, which are fantastic if you haven't seen them before. But they have small electrophoresis apparatuses that come with it. We bought a whole kit with 3 smaller PCR cyclers and 3 mini portable centrifuges as well, which solved our immediate issue of needing a PCR cycler, but also really gave us the opportunity to use this across several disciplines because you don't need to be in a lab to use this material. So we are going to be using it this summer in our Strand camp. We've used it in, for example, I teach Neuro 1, Neuro 2, bioinformatics and genomics, immunology, and I do the Hudson Alpha internships that we offer, and I teach AP Environmental. And I've been able to use it in every single class that I've had. They're able to use this in AP Biology. They're able to use this in even in human anatomy when we talk about, they do have short stints on genetics. They use it there. We've used it in AP Environmental to show how we can use PCR and electrophoresis in conservation. I mean, we've really been able to expand the offerings outside of just our biotech strand, which is really fantastic. I apologize for not having pictures on here as well. Again, I've been traveling quite a bit and I'm spread pretty thin right now, but this has been really fantastic for expanding biotech across disciplines, really. So it's pretty fantastic. You can go to the next slide if you'd like. So again, like I said, we can use this anywhere in the building. We're using it for the summer camps. And in our school, we have 3 strands. We have computer science, which is they kind of have substrands underneath: computer science, engineering, and biotech. But we're using this across all these different disciplines now. So all these students will be able to use it. And in Strand Camp, our incoming freshmen will start using our biotech equipment day 1 when they walk in. They get an exposure to it right away. And we are also starting something new at New Century this year to kind of bridge some gaps that we've noticed in our students as far as their understanding of scientific principles and qualitative and quantitative research and what it even means to design experiments. For example, in our bioinformatics and genomics class, we did experimental design to go the Genes in Space program to design an experiment to be able to perform experiments in space using PCR, and this equipment helped with all of that. We're also allowing, going forward, we're not calling it STEAM anymore, we're calling it STREAM. So we have a research implication across the entire school, and this will allow, because it's not such clunky large lab material, it will allow independent research without clogging resources for other classes, which is pretty fantastic. And that's the impact that STEDTRAIN has done for us. It's fantastic what we're able to do.
Fantastic, and thank you. And
Excuse me,
I like
Paul,
the
real quick.
idea of stream with research added.
Paul?
Very good. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can I get the last teacher's name since it's not showing up correctly on the screen?
Sarah Mason.
I thought you said she replaced Sarah Mason.
No,
No, I
she
replaced Debbie.
Debbie Brenner.
Debbie Brenner, okay.
Are you good? Can we continue, Ron? Ron?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you. And now New Hope High School Level Up with Choice-Based STEAM Labs, Coach Zachary Brock. And I didn't see him out there. I didn't see him join. Is there anyone here to give his presentation? Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about that one. Okay, let me note that, and we'll go through it very quickly. They had some Fuse challenges. They either work alone or in groups. Fuse creates a hands-on student-led environment where it is okay to fail and allows students to be persistent in trying to complete a challenge. Throughout the years, the students have learned how to code, how to build a plane, how to use computer-aided design to build a structure like an architect, and how gravity affects the downward movement on things such as roller coasters. This grant was intended to cover a lot of the cost of the Fuse Studio software. And here's some photos. Get in the game. This is a Fuse photo, and then here is a track where they're using that coaster where they do the gravity experiments. So that's what we have there. The goals and results, peer-based learning, students work on challenges in a different order and at different paces. They were able to therefore develop unique expertise that they share with their peers. Student becomes leaders, peer mentors, and experts in a variety of STEAM-related tools and practices. Producing motivated students, the Fuse challenges are designed around students' interest in music, design, and pop culture that are embedded with STEAM practices. These interests serve as the hook, and we all looking for that hook to engage the students, motivating the students to progress through challenges, and in the process discover new STEAM-related interests. Any questions from the educators on this project? Okay, moving forward, we're now going to go, that is the final presentation for today. And Ron, you might talk to what email was sent out to everyone about the ballots.
Yes, everyone should have received a personal ballot to vote for the best presentation in each of the three categories. I think it was K through 3, 4 through 8, and then the 9 through 12. Think back, pick out the best presentation, and submit your votes. And we should be able to tell pretty quickly who the winner is if we don't need to have a runoff. And we'll share that with you as soon as we get the information.
So again, you received the link. Go to that link. It will bring up a ballot where you can make selections based on the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. That when you select those options, we will then see the results. And then when we get sufficient numbers, Ron can cue me, and then we can announce the winners. So educators, start your balloting.
The K through third grade, we have a clear winner there. That's Miss Diane Trout.
Okay, congrats. Yay, Diane.
And then in the 4th through 8th grade, we had Miss Brandi Glenn.
Oh, congrats.
And then 9 through 12 was Teresa Hodge.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. And remind me the prizes for those winners, Ron?
They'll get a check for $100 that they can use for, however they need to use it in their classrooms. So,
wow.
Congratulations. We will get those checks mailed as soon as I can get our treasurer motivated.
Which is sometimes not the quickest process. So we look for those, and they will go to their home address. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So congratulations, Diane, Brandi, and Teresa. Thank you all for getting the area students engaged, involved, and excited about STEM. Kudos for all the fine work you guys are doing every day, and we certainly appreciate it. Congratulations. Thanks for sharing the morning with us. Have the good rest of the school year, and take care all. Signing off from Madison, Wisconsin.